In 1996, two chess titans clashed in the Credit Suisse tournament final, Viswanathan Anand versus Garry Kasparov. This wasn't just another game. It was a strategic masterpiece, where Anand outplayed the legendary Kasparov with surgical precision. In this video, we'll break down Anand's brilliant moves, sharp tactics, and the turning points that led to one of his greatest victories. Stay tuned. This battle is pure chess drama. Earlier in the final, Kasparov and Anand played two rapid games, with each winning one. To decide the champion, two blitz games followed. The first ended in a draw, so it all came down to this second and final blitz game. Let's dive into this instructive and thrilling encounter. Anand had the white pieces and began with pawn to e4. Kasparov responded with pawn to c5, the Sicilian defense. Then came knight to f3, pawn to d6, pawn to d4, pawn captures on d4. Knight recaptures, followed by knight to f6. Knight to c3, pawn to a6, the Sicilian Najdorf is on the board. Anand developed his bishop to e3. Kasparov immediately challenged it with knight to g4. After bishop to g5, h6 followed. Bishop dropped back to h4, then came pawn to g5. The bishop retreated to g3, and Kasparov continued with bishop to g7. Anand calmly played bishop to e2, eyeing a double attack on the knight on g4. Kasparov pushed h5. After bishop captures on g4, bishop recaptures. Anand played pawn to f3, attacking the bishop and creating a retreat square for his own bishop on g3. Kasparov moved the bishop back to d7. Then bishop to f2, knight to c6, queen to d2, keeping options open to castle either side. Knight to e5, and then Anand castled kingside. Arguably, he could have delayed castling to avoid giving Kasparov attack targets. Kasparov launched with pawn to g4. Anand responded with pawn to f4. Then knight to c4, queen to e2, and Kasparov developed his rook to the semi-open c-file. Anand played pawn to b3. Knight jumped to a3, then knight to d5. Now, capturing on d4 with the bishop would be a mistake, as it allows Anand to counterattack with pressure on the h8 rook and a strong threat of bishop to b6. So, Kasparov played pawn to e6, challenging the knight. Here, Anand had a clever move, knight to b6. If Kasparov had captured with the queen, knight takes e6 would have come with a discovered attack on the queen, followed by knight captures on g7 with check, giving white a clear advantage. But Anand, pressed for time, played knight to b4 instead. Kasparov launched queen to a5. Anand defended with queen to e1. Then came pawn to h4, bishop back to e3, and h3. Anand played pawn to g3. Kasparov brought his knight to b5. Anand developed his rook to the central file. Instead, knight takes b5, followed by bishop takes b5, and c4 would have been stronger. After rook to the central file, Kasparov struck with knight to c3, attacking both the rook and the knight on b4. Anand played knight to d3. Kasparov couldn't take on d1, as that knight was pinned to his queen, so he played queen to c7. Anand defended with rook to c1. Kasparov grabbed a pawn with knight takes e4. Anand pushed pawn to f5. Kasparov responded with pawn to e5, attacking Anand's knight. Anand countered with pawn to f6, attacking the bishop. Knight captures on f6, Kasparov wins a second pawn. Then Anand struck with knight to f5, going after the bishop. Bishop captures, rook recaptures. Kasparov brought his queen to c6, threatening checkmate on g2. Anand calmly defended with queen to e2. Kasparov played queen to e4, targeting the rook. Anand shifted the rook to f2. Kasparov activated his knight to d5, piling pressure on the bishop. Anand reinforced defense with rook to e1. At this point, Kasparov held a winning position. He had many good options, capturing on e3 with the knight, castling or pushing with bishop to h6 or f5. But Kasparov, eager to trade queens and convert his advantage, played queen takes e3, a huge blunder. Anand struck back with a stunning intermediate move, queen takes on g4. A triple attack on Kasparov's bishop, rook, and queen. Kasparov, realizing the blunder, reacted with a legendary animated expression. Check the link in the description to see it. Still, Kasparov didn't give up. He castled, offering the queen in return for a rook and a minor piece. After rook captures on e3, knight captures back. Queen takes h3, knight captures c2. Queen to d7, knight to d4. Queen takes b7, Anand wins a pawn. Kasparov played a5. Anand centralized his king. Kasparov lined up his rook. Knight jumped to b2, then knight to c2. Knight to c4, hitting the d6 pawn. Kasparov pushed d5. Anand's knight jumped to d6. Kasparov gave a check with knight to e3. King moved to h3, and Kasparov advanced with pawn to f5. Queen to d7, pawn to f4. Anand gave a check with queen to e6, king to h7. Then knight to f7. Kasparov was forced to give up the rook to prevent checkmate. Queen captures f7, rook to c6, Kasparov threatening a mating net. Anand calmly played pawn takes f4, rook to f6, queen to c7, pressuring the e5 pawn. Kasparov pushed e4. Anand replied with f5. Then d4, queen to e7 attacking the pawn, and rook to h6 with check. Anand stepped to g3. Kasparov brought his knight to d1, threatening rook and aiming for promotion. But Anand played rook to f4. Kasparov pushed pawn to e3, rook to g4, and here Kasparov resigned. Why? Because queen takes g7 checkmate is unstoppable. With this brilliant victory, Anand not only won the tournament, but earned thunderous applause. Later, Kasparov admitted in an interview that this was one of the most painful blunders of his career. Link in description. The lesson? Even the slightest lapse in focus can throw away a winning game. It's not over until it's over. And that's how Anand took down Kasparov in legendary style. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button, subscribe for more, and turn on the bell so you never miss another epic chess battle. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep playing like a champion.